See, that's my opening, Keith.
I like it.
I got to have a rock and roll opening to keep it going.
Yeah, that's very nice.
Hey, now here's what, Scott, this is next level.
Next level.
Because we have a special guest in the podcast room with us. You can watch it on YouTube, remember. So if you want to see who this special guest is, get a visual on that good-looking specimen right there. That is Dr. Keith Scott from LSU, Ochners Hospital, and give me the correct term. I mean, you have all the research side, you have everything. Give me your all your titles, all your letters, everything.
I'm professor of pediatric surgery and medicine. I have a MD, Masters of Global Health and Infectious Diseases, and one of the investigators in some of the clinical trials we have for COVID-19.
No, what's funny is, Scott, this is the most educated guy we've ever had in this room.
I feel like I should leave.
We probably should.
Golly.
But now, to give a reason why, me and you, Keith, have known each other a long time. Long time. And he's really doing some pretty cool stuff, because I'm going to go into part of how we know each other and all that before we get into the COVID stuff. But you really work in Haiti. Me and you had a lot of those conversations because you have some things you're trying to do down there and all these trips and these students. Tell a little bit about that. What are you doing and how are you helping these students?
Well, we've started a program, long time ago, taking students over to Africa.
Right.
And mainly doing just basic care.
Okay.
And Africa is, one, it's hard to get to, it's expensive, all of those things to take a lot of students to. And we saw a need in our backyard, which is Haiti.
Yeah.
And easier to get to, cheaper to go there. And seriously, there was a bigger need.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we were looking at was starting one of the first ICUs in southern Haiti, in the Lacaille area. They have a lot of sick people there, but if they get too sick, there's no care for them. And so we saved a bunch of equipment. We got a bunch of volunteer or donated equipment, and we were headed back down. We've done 4 or 5 trips, taken residents, taken nurses, started training some of their people, and then all of the political things happen.
And Haiti gets nuts.
And it gets nuts, and we just felt we could not take students down there or residents right now. And just as we were about to kick it back up, COVID starts. So
welcome to the world.
Yeah, welcome to the world. So, but we, one of the other people interested in global health, he and I talked in the hall the other day and said we got to kick it back up again. That, we can't let that go away just because of COVID. So we have to start relooking at it. And we still have a ton of equipment that we can take down there and hopefully set it up. And we're going to set it up at their charity hospital, which is something, they still have a cholera ward.
Wow.
And I mean, the HIV ward, they deliver 5,000 babies a year. And there's no neonatal ICU. There's no real care.
And this is why I love Kika. This is not like we go and we've been working with great organizations and great groups of people, but Keith and them, to go into the medical side is a whole nother world, and it is an amazing world. You have done amazing work leading that and championing that, and it's not easy.
It is not easy. If you just look at the struggle of just getting there, getting the equipment there, fighting the bureaucracy that
corrupt
exists, the corrupt country. When we went to Africa, we used to put the antihistamines on top because they were the most expensive thing to buy, and because they smoke everything in their house, and they all had allergies, so that was gold. And so when we would go through customs, we would put the antihistamines on top, and then when the customs start going through it, before they dug through the antibiotics and other things we knew we needed,
they'd take the antihistamines.
We would take the antihistamines and bribe them, and then they would just walk us through.
That's the way it is, man. What happened to me last time I were in Haiti, we had to get the water bottles in there. There's in the different regions we were in, there were kids that were drinking out of oil cans, like used oil cans. And that's my Southern, that's OIL, oil cans. Yes, oil cans. Yeah. So, but as they were doing that, we were like, we can get them clean water bottles, at least solve that problem. But then we got there, Customs was trying to steal it all, so I just started handing out 20s, man. And miraculously, they just let you on through.
You should have brought Benadryl.
Yeah.
Wow, I can't believe you used, obviously probably something a little more than Benadryl, but
I mean, here you can buy, a bottle of 100, generic Claritin for, $8-9,
Right.
and there it's equivalent to probably $100 to them. Wow. So it was good as gold.
Oh yeah, that's
crazy.
So that's the medical side, and that's how because we work together. We're trying to organize. I still have great people. Matter of fact, I got a text from a friend in Haiti yesterday. They're still trying to get this stuff done, so I still got to get on the same page. And then Mark and from Audio Adrenaline and all those guys, I've told you that's there. They have a great place to stay there. So we're going to get all that worked out. When COVID's lifted, we're going, Keith. Commitment. Come on, we got to make it happen. I want to go.
I'm there with you.
We're together. All right. But then we also have family connection as far as just I've known their family, his stepdaughter, for years. So I have known them for I don't even know how long.
I know
long
you know
time.
Chris a long time.
Yeah, like his wife is, I don't even know, 20 years maybe?
I don't know.
Maybe something like that, so a long time. So what I love about him, though, is at the local hospital, which LSU, explained to the listener, because some people will listen from out of the area.
Right.
What hospital do you work at? Because we call it LSU because it now still is, but it's Ochners.
Right.
LSU, it's the charity hospital, what some people think. But let's go through that a little bit because me and you have our own discussions and opinions of that. But talk about that.
Well, it's the really only academic medical center outside of New Orleans in Louisiana, and which means that we have not only medical students and residents and fellows, but we also have a basic science area that does a lot of basic research. And that's the LSU side. And what they did, just because of all of the upheaval in medical care, that they decided to partner with Ochner on the hospital side.
Right.
So that Ochner essentially runs the hospital side with LSU staff and LSU residents. And that's how the partnership grew. And it always has been the safety net hospital.
Sure.
And, one of the things that we've always been proud of is I've never said no.
Yeah.
If someone calls me with a transfer or they need something, unless I don't have a bed, I never say no. And we're encouraged to never say no. If they need help, just come on.
Wow.
And that's very rewarding from a medical side, that you don't have to do a wallet biopsy first to make sure that they have, the right, not only the insurance, but the right insurance.
Right.
So without, that's just the pressure not on you.
Yep. And he's that way, though. If you know, Keith, this is what's great about him is it's the only trauma hospital.
Yes.
So even, in child trauma. So, like, I've had multiple circumstances in my connected life through the church or whatever that those guys and gals have been phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. And I know the church has brought gifts up to our
we try.
And
we try to encourage y'all, man. Keep going, baby. You're doing good.
Going. But we're only level 1 trauma center outside of New Orleans. We're a level 2 pediatric trauma center, the only one in the state.
That's what people don't know.
Yeah, and so now we've opened up the St. Mary's campus.
Right.
And women's and children's are over there, so we've moved most of pediatrics, OB, a lot of other surgeries over there, which gives us a lot more space and better parking and all of that. And then, but the pediatric trauma still stays at the main Kings Highway campus. So.
Are they, whenever you're launching, is that the long-term goal, is that they'll create a women's center where old Shumpert was?
Yes, that's the goal.
That was Hal Sutton's children's hospital, too. Did y'all look at those wings? Or did they,
that's where they housed. They just had to do a tremendous amount of updating because when the hospital was mothballed, I guess, it falls out of code. Now,
quickly.
If you come back and say, okay, now I want to make it a hospital, it's a whole new code bracket. So a lot of updating, and they're putting a lot of money into it
that's awesome.
To bring it up. And it's beautiful. The neurosurgery clinics there now, the orthopedic clinics there, I think some urology is going there.
So the hospital's expanding in a huge way. When Ochners came in, it changed.
Yeah, it changed a lot, and it's allowed us to spread our wings.
That's awesome.
And offer some services, that probably, could have done at some point, but it's just become easier. And COVID has pushed a lot of this really fast.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was kind of a 1.5-year plan to move into St. Mary's, and we had to do it because we had to expand our main campus ICUs we were anticipating, 30 to 50 beds. And to do that, we had to move people out. And so we had to do it in a couple of months. And so it's working. It's good. It's, you know, I was just over there last weekend covering. It's a nice campus, and like I said, it's going to work out. Just once the COVID, all of that comes down to where we can start putting more and more resources, less COVID resources and more just expansion resources.
So let's talk about that for a second, though. But what is your specific job? So you're over pediatrics?
No, I'm just one of the pediatric intensivists, and I do adult critical care medicine. And so I do both. But like since COVID, we've all just been either working in the COVID ICU or working, you know, to help out the COVID ICU. And then a lot of what we're doing is research.
Yeah, so we're going to get into that. But before we do, Scott, you know, you thought you had COVID.
Yes.
And we tested you, and you were?
Negative.
Negative, Ghost Rider.
Yes.
And we went through a lot of rigmarole. Now, Keith was if I needed, I had an ace in the hole.
Yes.
If I couldn't get answers from a local family doctors, from your whatever we need, the situation we're in, I was going to Keith. You know why? Because he had COVID, son.
Yes.
Now, that's true. Now, this is what people don't know, because you literally had COVID, and you work in a hospital, and you're dealing with that. So let's first go, because no one I know, other than Stuart Hall in Atlanta, has had COVID. Me and Stuart haven't had a whole lot of talk about that. But talk about it, because you got isolated to your backyard.
Yes.
in a trailer, right?
Yeah. Well, my wife had some medical illnesses, and so we didn't, in where I worked, I didn't want to bring it home. And so we have a RV, and we parked it in our backyard and hooked it up. And so I lived in there for about a month before I even got it. And so,
wow,
thank goodness I was out there.
Yeah, because it would have risked her. Yeah,
absolutely. And I woke up, I don't know, 1 or 2 in the morning with the worst pain I've ever had in my life. I mean, the muscle aches were just unbelievable. And then the fever started. And I had fever for 4.5 days. I mean, of just unrelenting pain. And the fatigue was what really got me.
Yeah, wiped you out.
I mean, I bet 3 days I slept 23 hours a day. I mean,
wow.
I mean,
that's why whenever I look at you, it's like, Scott, I don't think you got it.
I tell you,
sure.
What my wife did, this is pretty smart. She went and got a baby monitor, one of
that
those,
is smart.
and put it out in the RV so she could watch me from the house. It's, you know.
Yeah, no, this is crazy. So Keith texted me or something in there, and I'd have to look it back up. But he's like, yeah, I got it or whatever. And I was like, well, man, you need anything? He's asking me what he can do for us. I'm like, Joker, you got COVID. Stay away is what you can do. You ain't coming up to talk to me. But that was his heart. Well, let me know for something. I'm like, no, you just need to get well. So then I text one time, and you didn't answer. So I text your wife, Chris. She was just like, Justin, he is sleeping a lot. I said, and that Joker's asking what he can do for us. You know, I'm like, get well. That's what you can do.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, it took me a month I would work. And I'd have to go home at 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon and just rest.
Oh, yeah.
For a month. And then it took, like I said, about 5 weeks where I really felt like I could go through a day.
And it was pretty early on.
Very early.
Yeah, that was like when it was first coming. I mean, because I think it was the first time I knew that had it.
Yeah.
So let's get into that then. So you personally experienced it. Now, what are you doing specifically with COVID? Now, hold on. You need a COVID update, don't you? You feel like it?
I can do a COVID update.
Hold on. This is just to let you know how next level we are. Keith.
All right.
Go ahead, Scott.
I just want to make sure you hit the right button.
That's probably smart, especially with a special guest.
Yes.
Here we go. Let's see.
COVID-19 update with Dr. Keith Scott.
See, I like that. It was a little loud, but I like it.
It was a little
That's
loud.
okay. We were getting
That's
excited.
all right.
So every week we were giving our own COVID updates. Something with the church, something funny, or something we saw, or something serious. So now we get real COVID updates. This is not make-believe. This is Dr. Keith giving it to us.
Make-believe.
What are you doing specifically now with COVID?
Well, excuse me. For the research side, we have several trials that we're looking at. One trial is we actually, people that are on a mechanical ventilator, they're that sick. We give them very, very high doses of nitric oxide, which is a gas we've used for years in babies and people with heart conditions. And we found in the first COVID, or the SARS outbreak, that people got a little better when using it. So with some further studies, it looks like not only does it improve oxygenation, but it may in fact kill the virus.
Wow.
So we partnered with Mass General, Beth Israel in Boston, a Harvard group, and then UAB in Birmingham, and then a institution in Sweden to put together this trial. And so we've had 2 interim looks at safety, and they said it's very safe, keep going with the trial. And we have, I think, 60 in one arm and 70 in another arm. And so it's going to take another month or 2 to figure, but it won't be the cure for COVID, but it may be a very effective treatment. And we know that patients that get this gas improve their oxygen. We're just hoping it also has that virucidal. So that's one trial. The other trial we have is people that aren't quite as sick. They don't need a mechanical ventilator, but they still need a hospitalization.
Right.
And then we go in and give them super high doses twice a day, and in hope that it'll keep them from progressing to severe.
So basically, your trials in both are involving nitrous.
That's mine.
Yeah.
And I'm involved superficially in others, but we have one that's a inhaled drug that helps cleave one of the proteins that the virus needs to attach. We have another one that just kind of turns off the immune system, because one of the things we're seeing is why this virus is so devastating is when it hits, not only do you get this respiratory and lung infection, you get this profound inflammatory response. And it's something that we see in other diseases that are pretty rare.
Like what? Give me an example of that.
Well, one is called like macrophage activation syndrome, which people may, like kids with rheumatoid arthritis,
Right.
will get when their immune system just goes crazy. There's another Epstein-Barr can cause one called HLH, and that causes the same thing. And what happens is just the immune system just goes ballistic.
Wow.
And all of the defense mechanisms you have, because the immune system is good, but you have to have a break.
Right.
You know, you have a gas pedal and a brake,
Right.
because you don't want to overdo the inflammation, because that becomes harmful.
Wow.
And that's what we're seeing is then that leads to renal failure and other organ failures. And so we're seeing this huge inflammatory response. And that's one of the other things that we're trying to study is how can we mitigate that and kind of keep that from happening. And we have a couple of ways. One is the convalescent plasma. We're one of the first to give that.
Have you given yours yet?
Yeah, no.
Well, because you've had it. I didn't know if.
Yeah,
If,
they don't like that you travel to Haiti.
oh yeah.
And-
They're frown
and-
upon that. don't
Yeah,
they?
and you know the malaria risk and
Right.
stuff. So, but the worst part was I got antibody tested, and I didn't have any. And so it's about 30% that either one, my titer didn't reach the threshold to measure it, or it was just a sample error, or I just didn't make them. And we're seeing people
See that there's another side of it, Scott. When you thinking we know,
yeah.
I'm
But
gonna-
people
I'm gonna
that do
take a
have
Klonopin
antibodies,
now.
we're really encouraging them to donate.
right?
And give it, because one of the things that we're doing also, we've done with a couple of patients, is we put on a machine that actually runs their blood through a filter, and we pull off all their plasma, and then we replace it with convalescent plasma or with regular plasma at times, but to try to get rid of those inflammatory
Yeah.
proteins and then give them something healthier.
Yeah, I think that's
back.
what Stewart did in Atlanta. So my buddy's in Atlanta area, and he got it. He's about my age, maybe a couple of years older, so early 50s. Don't know where he got it, but man, caused him to have a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty much, they don't know. They
Right.
just believe that it was connected to that. So then he was on a vent for nearly 30 days.
Yeah.
I think that's about right, something like that.
Yeah, that's what we're
Finally,
seeing.
and just almost died. I mean,
Yeah.
he literally fought his way back, but got released. But it has been, and they ended up doing plasma, and they ended up doing all these other stuff because it was still trials. They were
Right.
still trying to figure out. I don't remember what hospital it was in Atlanta, but somewhere north of Atlanta anyway.
But there's a lot of, we have, remdesivir combination trial that we're doing, but we're really looking almost anything out there right now. Is there some way that we can study this and try to mitigate it? Because we're going to have to approach this in a lot of different ways. And because the other thing, not only the inflammation, but like your friend that had the heart attack, we're seeing their blood clots very
Yeah.
fast and very
That's what
easily.
happened to him. He got blood
Yeah.
clots.
And the other thing we see is you're over COVID, and a month later, you have a massive stroke. And it's people in their 40s and 50s.
Do they know just because of what it did to the blood?
Mm-hmm. And probably the lining of the blood vessels, along with some of the proteins that exist because of the virus cause this to coagulate. And so that's why we're seeing this, these, I call it the second wave. You know, we're worried about the second wave as acute infections.
Right.
But the other second wave is this residual or sequela that we're seeing from this virus, you know, that are just creeping up on us.
Yeah, because you don't know. We don't know exactly what it's going to do.
And the most recent one that it's done is called Pediatric Multi-System Immune Response.
I saw it on the news.
And
that's New York area, isn't it? Do we have?
We've had it here. We've had, I think, documented, or as best we can document, I think 4 cases in Louisiana so far, and it's creeping up more and more and more and more.
And they don't really know, other than the virus is affecting the body, and that's the body's reaction to for whatever reason, and we're trying to figure that out.
Yeah, and because it's such a hyper response, because you get the cold.
It looks like it's a big rash, and then
it can be a rash. It can be, and we're seeing changes in blood flow in the brain, and because one thing that we found in these patients that get it, particularly severely ill, is you almost can't sedate them, and they need to, and they need to rest, and they could almost not sedate them, and they think it has. Some think it's viral into the brain, but it's probably just blood flow changes to the brain itself, and it's quite a. So it's a disease that nothing like anything we've ever seen.
Yeah, because some people out there, Keith, you know the skeptics. They all think it's conspiracy, or they think, well, it's just the flu. It ain't that big a deal. It's a little more than the flu, folks.
It's way more than the flu. I mean, flu. The people that die from the flu are the ones that are kind of expected. Right. You know, a lot of end of life, or children that have a lot of medical issues. Right. That's not COVID. I mean,
they're Stewart's healthy.
I mean, it is so indiscriminate, and you know, it's so. I don't know. It's just the most bizarre thing we've ever really seen.
Right.
So it's nothing like the flu, and you can't compare it, and you can't say, you know, oh, this many people died from the flu. You have to look at who died from the flu, not a number of people that died from the flu, but who died? What's their strat? You know, is it we're seeing with COVID, African Americans and Latin Americans very, very susceptible.
Yeah, they don't know why.
No, we thought initially that it may just be, you know, hypertension is higher in, you know, the African American population, diabetes is higher. I think it's beyond that. I think it's just something that, you know, it'll take us a while to figure out. And this disease, we're not going to figure out how to treat it until the winter, when we can look back on all this data that we're collecting. And we're collecting a ton of data all the time that we can look back and say, okay, maybe this is the best to treat it. Because if you look at, we just had a fellow from Mass General came in to visit us for the trial, and his colleague, he's from Germany, his colleagues in Germany, they stopped treating anything. They just support them. They don't do remdesivir. They don't do any of those therapies.
Why now? Why? They
just haven't found it worked, and their mortalities are not that different. I hope that's not the case.
Yeah, so they're saying we're wasting a lot of money, energy, medicine on. We're throwing stuff at it, and we don't even know we're throwing it.
Well, we're throwing everything at it and hoping something sticks.
Right.
And the problem with that is, and why we're so careful with the nitric oxide trial of safety, is you have to make sure it's safe. I mean,
because you don't know the side effects to whatever they're throwing at it.
No, I mean, if you look at the swine flu epidemic, remember that back in the...
Oh, yeah.
You know, more people died of the vaccine than ever died from swine flu. Well, if we did that with COVID, and that's why I tell people we can't rush into these things.
Right.
Now we got 200,000 deaths.
Right.
And it's all induced.
Yeah, it's our fault.
It's our fault.
Oh, man.
So we have to be...
That's why people don't get it.
Yeah, that's why you have to step back, and why people have said we have to study it. And we're trying, we're still giving stuff. We're still giving therapies, but we have to, at some point, we can take a breath and look back and say, okay, this really did work. This seems like it worked.
And there's a lot of people, every major hospital, or especially schooling hospital, they're all investing energy and time into it. But we specifically in this Shreveport-Bossier area, LSU, they're putting a lot into this.
Yes, we.
You've switched from all the other stuff into primarily just this, correct?
Right. We basically suspended all of our other clinical trials so that everyone, all hands on deck, can start, you know, addressing this problem. And so we have a COVID study group. We have phone calls twice a week. And we're basically holding each other accountable.
Right.
You know, how's your research going? How's this going? And so I'm very proud of our institution and very proud of and appreciative of the administration that has given us the green light and have funded a lot of this themselves.
Yeah, that's what I was telling you. This is why I think people don't get this, and this is so important, is we got men and women busting their tail to figure it out instead of just all the politics or the right or the left they're just going, no, this is life and death, and we're putting our energy and our effort to save someone's life.
Yeah.
And our backing, because you're not funded yet. I mean, it's still. I mean, there's partially funded, but I'm saying you're the hospital and this. They're putting money to it because they're going. This is a big deal.
Yeah,
this is bigger than flu.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's bigger than anything.
Right.
And you know the other thing that I can't just give enough handout to is the frontline workers.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you know, the nurses that are there. You know, I can walk in round. I can clean up, go down and get a cup of coffee. They can't.
They're in there.
We bring them food, bring them water, but that's amazing too. So we have the research side, but the care side is unbelievable. And it is frustrating when someone says, oh, it's blown out of proportion. You might want to round with me one day before you say that.
Exactly.
And it's not as big a deal. Well, when you zip up a canvas bag over someone's face, that's a mom, a dad, a brother, sister. It kind of changes your attitude.
And that's why I'm thankful you're here, because when he called, I was like, Keith, you got to come, because I'll give you a great example. So our church, we decided to go, let's press the pause button trying to get everybody back together. Mm-hmm. Let's be a little more safe, a little bit more proactive in going, what benefit does that do other than, make some people go, that's right, we did it. When I'm going, but if I cause someone harm or it has an adverse effect that we're not aware of, I'd rather press the pause button and slow down and come up with other ways, because it's a big deal.
Yeah. Well, someone said it the best about turning everything back on.
Right.
Was, one, we only want to open once. And if you look at Iran had to reshut down, Lebanon had to reshut down, southern France had to reshut down because they saw these spikes.
Right.
Immediately once they opened up. And so we only want to open up once and do it right, and it should not be a light switch. It should be a dimmer switch.
Right.
And you got to turn it on slow. If not, we're going to have the second wave. They're already predicting the second wave in August.
Yeah.
It's just statistically and epidemiologically, but it could be much sooner.
Yeah, and that's my point, and this is the reason I keep coming back to this part, is none of us know, but the smartest doctors and nurses and research people are going, here's what we're telling you. We can read data. Mm-hmm. We can look at the statistics and tell you now they could be wrong. It could be slightly this way or that way, but we do have a rough idea of what's going to happen. I've talked to a couple of other doctors locally, and they're going, what will make the fall challenging, and I'd love to get your opinion on this because we don't know, but a normal flu case and a COVID case, when they come in, and we know flu always ramps up, so that's going to happen again.
Right.
So we'll have shots and they'll do whatever, but it's confusing to diagnose, and it's complicated based on the procedures that are in place to protect or to work through. So for a frontline nurse and doctor in a regular hospital or a doctor's office, they're going, it's confusing. I don't know if Keith's got flu or if he's got COVID.
Right.
We got to treat everything like COVID because of the negative effects, correct?
Right, because very early in the disease, they can just look the same. I mean, a fever and body aches. And the problem is, one is in certain people is progressively lethal, and other people, they don't even get a sniffle.
Yeah,
That's
so
what
weird.
makes it so bizarre and so hard to also manage, which is why, tracing is so important, so that we can try to figure out where are our hot spots, where are we seeing it,
Right.
not to discriminate against anyone, but just to say, okay, Ruston, you're a hot spot, you got to stay closed. I'm sorry.
Sure.
But Monroe, you look okay, start easing up. And until we've had enough testing, that's hard to do.
And it is complicated because, once again, even in the hot spots like right now, you don't hear as much about it. Number one, already it's kind of everybody's kind of going, all right, and it's switched to open, forget what's happened. Now, I understand that because there is a business side of it, and there is different people going, dude, we got to survive, and yada, yada, yada. But from the medical side, which you're here to represent, there's wisdom in like you said, turning the dimmer switch slow
Mm-hmm.
based on the fact that we don't know exactly what's going to happen. And that's not a joke.
That's not a joke. I mean, think of the rapidity of how this spread from China and Wuhan, China, through Europe, through the United States in 3 months. And what's the infections rate up to now? I know
I don't even know.
5 million.
Yeah.
Almost 280,000 deaths. In 3 months. I mean, that's what's made this so difficult to study, because we're having to do everything on the fly.
Right.
And that's, when people say, well, this expert's been wrong, that expert's been wrong. Well, a lot of people were wrong about this. It's a hoax. It's nothing. It's, it's
Right.
silly. We're making a big deal out of nothing. No, like I said, you think that, come work with me one day and you'll see how it's nothing. So it's, we just have to regroup a little bit and just say, let's just be wise about it. And I think our governor's done a very good job of making it stepwise, and he brought in a lot of people to say, okay, let's do this
Sure.
in business people and science
Right.
people, and say there's a way we can make this
sure.
work. And so I like what we're doing. I wish I saw more people with masks,
Right.
because we're still not out of that stage. I mean, we get 3 or 4 patients a day still. So
that's something you don't really hear.
yeah, and so I've had
I wear my mask.
He does.
yeah, and I do too. And I had a guy. I was in line and I was standing pretty far back from him. And actually, I was just daydreaming. I was trying to stay 6
Right.
feet, but it went to like 12 feet. He turned to me and he said, "Dude, you're not going to catch something from me." And I couldn't help myself. I said, "I'm a healthcare worker. I work in the COVID ICU. I'm protecting you."
bet-
he
then
about
he's
ran
like-
out.
Then he's like, yeah, step away.
Yeah. Then he was like, "Okay, you're good. You're good."
Wow.
But I mean, and that's what they don't understand. You're not only protecting yourself, but you're also protecting your fellow man.
Sure.
Because you don't know, because so many people, we know it can shed it when you're asymptomatic.
Sure.
And so it's not that big of a deal to put on a mask if you're in a crowded
Right.
area. And, outdoor, restaurants and spacing tables, I think is great, because
Right.
it doesn't disperse a lot.
Right.
And it's not going to travel 20 feet.
Right.
And so I think it's okay to do that. I
Right.
think it's okay people go out and, go back to restaurants
Sure.
and go shopping. But if you're going to go to Lowe's, you're going to go to Target, wear a mask, because
Right.
you can't stay 6 feet. You're in line, or,
Right.
or some people just crossing in an aisle.
And now some people, so let's talk about that for a second, Keith, because some of the pushback on the other side is, because I've had some medical personnel go, well, it's here or there, but the truth is, it's just the only tool, not the only tool, a major tool we have in slowing the spread down or preventing it. So why would you not? Correct?
Yeah, and they just did a study that was just published last week where they took standard surgical masks, not the N95, just a standard surgical mask.
All right.
And it will stop 90% of flu and 90% of COVID or coronavirus.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just a simple mask.
Right.
So, it's not, you don't need an N95 or
Right.
a respirator or
Right.
anything. Just a simple mask.
So what about mine? That's the homemade cloth.
As long as it's dense cloth.
It's pretty dense. It gets pretty warm in there. I'm going to be honest
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah.
Yes.
As long as it's dense.
It fogs up my glasses pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing is, really, other than obviously hand sanitizing, washing your hands, and there's still so much research going on there. Now I heard recently that it doesn't live on surfaces very long. And I've heard mixed reports on that, but
Yeah.
I'm going, well, I mean, they don't know, but they're
Well,
going,
it's funny because they found it it lasts longer on metal than it does on wood, and
Right.
so I think we're just, again, still so early into trying to figure this out. And if you look at the medical journals, we're reporting 5-6 cases, which would never make a medical journal when you're just saying,
Right.
I saw this, but that's where we're having to do it now. Because what it is, someone's saying, hey, I saw this was weird, but this looked like it really helped. And then I read it and say, well, okay, well, let me
try that.
try that. That sounds good. Looks like something we can do. And that's not the way you should do medicine.
Right.
But that's the way we're forced to do medicine. And that's why people hear mixed signals or unanswered questions, it's not because lack of trying or there's a conspiracy or any of that. It's just we're doing this on the fly, and you can't not do good medicine on the fly.
Right.
You need to plan a trial first, make sure it's safe, then make sure it's effective, and then make sure it actually down long term does what you want it to do. And that's why, we're doing things rapidly, and we're just going to have to be as careful as we can.
Yeah, and there's two sides of that. There's the research side, and then there's the treatment side. So you're having to do both at the same time, which is complicated.
Yes, and so we're trying to marry a lot of what we do clinically with research. And so a lot of this, we're going to do a lot of stuff, and we'll retrospectively look back and just say, okay, let's look at 100 patients, and then let's try to tease it out, and use modeling and things to say, okay, this really did seem to work, and that did seem to work.
So do you think that, and I don't know if this is accurate or not, that has weather, because that's one thing, the heat and all that stuff, do you think it's going to be like the flu, that will continue to kind of keep it down, but when we get to fall, do you think you'll see, theorizing, or based on what you've read, does that appear to be what their theory is?
I don't know if we know.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is going to be confusing because we're also opening up in the summer.
Right.
So if there's a resurgence, then you say, oh, well, it's not weather dependent. Or was it resurgence because we decided we're going to have baseball games again? So,
there's a lot of debate on it.
Right. And so it's going to be confusing. And like I tell everyone, we're not going to figure this out till the winter, when we can have time where we can take a breath away from the clinical side and look at the research side and say, this worked, that did not work. This is a good idea, this is a bad idea. And that's why we're encouraged about the nitric oxide. One good thing about it is it's already FDA approved. It's been around for a long time. Almost any hospital of any size has it available. So if it does work, we can start using it right away. We don't have to go through a regulatory process or any of that.
Pretty big.
Yeah. So that's why we're excited about that. And the fact that with 2 good analyses, it's safe.
And so basically what they're doing with that, though, is just like you have forced oxygen, they're forcing with oxygen a blend of nitrous oxide.
Right.
Yeah, I was wondering, I guess you just put on a mask?
It's like a CPAP mask that people wear at night, and it's a big, long contraption because we have to monitor the amount of nitric oxide, and one of the side effects is with oxygen, you can generate nitrous dioxide, which could drive your oxygen lower. So you have to make sure you don't give that and give enough nitric. So it's quite a contraption. It almost embarrassing to show people because it looks so cheap.
But I've seen a lot of.
Hey, if it works, it works.
It works.
I've seen a lot of people doing some crazy stuff. Them guys were making masks and helmets.
Yeah, and in fact, when the guys came from Mass General to kind of help us put this together, I said, you're in Louisiana. There's got to be duct tape somewhere. We're getting duct tape somewhere on this thing.
That's funny right there. But it's working to a degree.
It is working. And another one that we're hoping to do, but Mass General is already doing, is healthcare workers, when they leave, get 5 to 10 minutes of breathing the nitric oxide to see if it helped prevent them from acquiring it.
So, dude, this is why you love America.
I kind of want a tank at my house.
I know, right?
But this is why you love, because you're figuring stuff out. And what's interesting to me is the worst of times brings out the most innovation and the most, creativity, and we're going to figure it out. So then we'll learn from it that many times it's hard to see that in the midst of it.
And if you look back, not that this is close to it, but if you look at the scare of AIDS and HIV, that was an all hands on deck. I mean, the National Institute of Health said we're opening a branch on this. We're going to commit, many resources, and now HIV is, it's almost a chronic disease now.
Yeah,
it's almost
it's
like
true.
diabetes. And
and I remember people. You had to be old to remember this. You kind of don't even act like you kind of remember.
I remember.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is,
I was born right at the beginning of the height.
But I'm going back to I remember thinking this was it. That disease was, you weren't going to be able to, it was going to, and now you're fast forward, you're right. They're able to.
Yeah, and we're seeing cures, and we're seeing.
Yes,
absolutely. A friend of mine's mother has lived 20 years now with it.
Yeah.
Right. And when I first started, I was in New York training, and it was the height of the HIV, and it was just horrible. I mean, there's no way we're going to get a treatment for
Right.
this. And then, slowly, surely figured it out. And I think the way Corona hit us so hard that it's even more of a all hands on deck now with this.
Oh yeah, and I think that I mean, like you said, they're not similar, but yet are similar. But is that this is just airborne? Like that was a sexually transmitted disease,
Right.
so it's kind of like, oh, they're the bad people, or this is
Yeah.
where you
Well,
can
you
kind of
knew your risk.
isolate. Yeah. But now it's like that's what's so crazy is. But it took, even with it being a smaller, it took a lot of people, a lot of money, and a lot of effort to figure that out,
Yeah.
and a lot of time.
Yeah.
And here we are in COVID going, it's affecting way more people, and we don't know how and how complicated it is. It's why it's a little.
Yeah, and it's the time. I mean, the only thing we've seen close to this is the Spanish flu, 1918, 1919, which killed about 25 million people in a year and a half.
That's rough.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, and a lot of it was they got pneumonias and they didn't have ventilators and they didn't have antibiotics and all of that. So there's a lot of reasons why it was so lethal. But again, this could have been that much of a burden. And so we're, 5 million people that got it or tested for it so far. Even though 250,000 have died, I worry about that 4.5 million that are left that have it, and what is this going to cause a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, which is going to be another health. I think it's going to be another big health issue that we're going to, and that's one thing we've started also at LSU was a post-COVID clinic. So, in fact, starts tomorrow. So if you've had it, you can go and they'll closely monitor your heart, your blood vessel, your clotting, kidney function.
Yeah, because they don't
immune
know.
response, because we just don't know. But we're setting up this clinic so that we can very tightly follow people that have had it, and then probably have some studies dealing with that. And we actually have some in the planning for people that are recovering, because with this clotting disorder, we don't exactly know what anticoagulant to give them, and then we don't know for how long. Do you do it for a month, 6 months, a year, forever? So
See, that's
all
what
these
happened.
things
That's what happened with Stewart. Well, and there's a guy in New York right now, the Broadway actor. He
Yes.
lost his leg, and then they're still. But Stewart, they thought he was. They put in that basket. I just remember from other heart procedures and other things. They have I don't know how you do that, but I guess it's through whatever that little thing is that you stick through your vein to put in the basket that catches clots and all this.
Right.
But I'm going, that COVID is causing all of these other things. That's what makes it extremely complicated.
Yeah, and that's why
For certain people, and then nothing for others.
And that's we're hoping it's nothing for others. And,
But you don't know.
Well, and that's why we set up the clinic, was so that we can follow people, particularly
Right.
people that got a little sick from it. I think if you're asymptomatic, you're just blessed, and
Right.
you're just not going to get it, and your immune system behaved the way it was supposed to. But if it didn't, you're something you're going to have to follow up for a long time.
So we got to follow up on you.
Well, I'm
See, by the way,
I'm getting followed up. My wife and my daughter are nurses, so you don't think I can get
Sam,
followed up.
I don't think you knew Sam. But she grew up in the student ministry.
By the way, I think I'm going to have a Klonopin now.
Well, you're good.
I'm nervous now.
Yeah.
I'm sweating over here.
Well, it's a little warm. The air just
I have a
kicked back
little,
on.
like my chest is a little tight.
Oh, come on, man. He's just walking through things. He's trying to tell you what's happening.
I'm off service. I'm sorry.
Yeah, come on, man.
Well, because I'm a little bit higher risk.
Yeah.
Because I'm a bigger person.
Yeah, but still, let's go down that road for a second, though. But let's talk about that for a second. But it's true that 98.9% of people, what are the statistics of that it doesn't affect them, or that they survive at this level that are good?
It's still
I've heard a lot.
Still the majority.
Yeah.
I don't know if we know a number yet. But a majority are asymptomatic, which is the scary part, because they're still transmitting for 7 to 10 days.
Right.
Just because they didn't get sick doesn't mean you're not shedding the virus.
Right.
Or you sneeze twice and you think, oh, allergies.
And there it goes.
And there it is. And
I sneezed today.
Yeah.
No, see, the problem is him, Keith. Though he's going to get in his head now
Oh,
after
I
this,
know.
and he's going to be he'll be down again.
I have medication. I'm on,
Okay,
I'm on
all right.
medication.
Thank
We'll
God.
get you some psychotherapy.
I had some very high anxiety about a month ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm now with my doctor, Dr. Milligan, Jason Milligan.
He's
Shout
trying
out.
to help you out.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm good. Well, I'm okay.
Yeah.
You're
He
okay.
said he's not going to lie. He's keeping it straight.
But I do have a question.
Yes.
Because
Yeah,
I'm sure
yeah.
this is what people want to know, and me in particular. So let's say I haven't had it that I know of. So what's the best way to protect myself out in the general public?
It's still a mask. It's still a mask and social distancing until we know that this thing goes away. And is a vaccine going to cure this thing? Does a vaccine cure flu? So a lot of weight and a lot of hope is put on a vaccine, and we hope it works like smallpox or polio and is effective. But, flu, once it gets around the world, it mutates several times. So by the time it comes back, is the vaccine effective? Because think about the vaccine maker. He's got to guess what the flu is going to do so he can make enough vaccine to get it out there to everybody by the time flu hits. But you don't know what the flu is until it gets here. So you're guessing, which is why you get the polyvalent, it hits these 5 different kinds of flu.
Right.
That's because that's developed because all these mutations that happen. So is COVID going to do that? It's probably not as mutation sensitive as flu, but I think we're going to have to see what happens.
That's why you socially distance. You be safe. Wash your hands. Yeah. I heard to the end, and again, Keith's here. He'll know better than me, but they say washing your hands and sanitizing and wearing a mask eliminates your risk at a higher rate than anything else they've seen. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but they're just saying that you got to keep doing the same things where some people are like, it's not that big a deal anymore, which it'll flare back up.
Right. And I think, we care about our community. We care about the people in our community. And I think it's the least you can do for your fellow man is to put a thing of hand sanitizer in your car. When you go in the store, squirt some. When you get out of the store, squirt
That's
some.
right.
And wear a mask. I think that's the least we can do until we know that this thing is controlled.
Absolutely. So you got any other questions for the guru over here? This is a guru. Keith is the guru.
The guru.
Well, because there is, this Saturday, I'm going.
I like this. What do you want him to get? Do you want him to walk around with you?
I kind of do.
You want him to? He's not
I
going
want
on
a
trips
bottle
with you,
of
Scott.
nitric acid.
Nitric acid?
No, that would be bad.
Nitric oxide.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Nitric oxide. Nitric acid would be bad.
Yeah.
That would be painful. Boy, and I don't even want to think about that. That gave me anxiety just thinking about it.
Go ahead.
Sorry. But
ridden.
all right. So I'm going, or I'm supposed to be going canoeing this weekend in Arkansas.
Outside. Good.
Outside.
Good event.
Is there any way? Do I need to do anything special for that?
No, and I encourage. One of the things that I didn't like was the parks closed.
Right.
Because I think one of the things that you could do is social distance outside. You can have a picnic.
Yep.
It's not that hard. We're sitting 6 feet
Right,
away.
right.
You can still have a great conversation. You can still, and outside, it's horribly difficult to spread it if you stay that distance and you're outside. Inside, it's a little less because of, you're not going to have wind and you're not going to have, different things
Sure.
that can inhibit it. So I think, and I've encouraged people, go backpacking, go canoeing.
Get outside.
Go to the park, take up running. I won't, but some people can.
Me
I'm
and
definitely
Keith
not.
are really good at eating.
Yeah,
that's our
yeah,
problem.
that's our
We need a
problem.
strong.
I'm not.
Well, I'm just saying you fit in the club.
Well, I am exercising more now than I ever have, just because this was a wake-up call for me just for my own health.
Right.
So now I'm trying to be more active because I don't want to be one of those people that gets sick, ends up in the hospital, and has a really tough time with it, or might even die, which I know my chances are low. But still, though, I'm trying to get healthier just personally because I don't want to be that person.
And we've seen a lot of that too. Just for people talking to people across the country, a lot of people are doing that, saying, this has been good for us, good for our family,
Sure.
this stay home time, and I am exercising more, and I am feeling a little better. I'm cooking more at home. I'm cooking better. I'm not stopping at McDonald's. I'm getting Go Waiter from a good restaurant,
Right.
and so it's going to change us quite a bit. And I
It's
don't think it's for
definitely-
the worst.
No, I definitely think it's changing us. There ain't no doubt.
No, it is. For me personally, I would like to say COVID saved my life.
Yeah.
We could go into that.
Yeah.
You went into your last podcast, though.
Yeah, I
didn't you?
can. Yeah, I went into it.
Yeah.
But
No.
I think a lot of people are feeling that. And, you know, for myself, it's a missed bullet.
Yeah.
You know, it grazed me, but it certainly didn't kill me, and
Right.
it didn't hurt me bad. Hurt, you know, I lost about 15 pounds. It's not a diet I would recommend, but
You were down, man,
yeah,
for a
I
while.
was down.
Now, do you see that currently? Obviously, the numbers have flattened out, and they're not as many. So, and we won't know until we get further into the fall. But do you, in your mind, if you were guessing right now, you would say it's going to increase, or it's going to stay the same?
I think we will see a flattening out because I think enough people have done the right thing for enough time, and we're still social distancing pretty well. I mean, you walk into almost any store, there's tape on the
Yep.
floor. I think they're being responsible. You see, you know, waitress people wearing masks.
Yep.
And so I do think it's going to fall. I think once people start getting complacent
Yeah.
and start, you know, getting back together and doing what we still want to do, and hopefully one day
Sure.
we can, we're going to see a resurgence, of
Yeah.
course.
So let's talk church in that then, because we chose not to meet, and we've chosen to wait for public gatherings of a large size. That's not popular for some.
No. It's,
We don't really care about that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to be ugly to those, but we really don't. We're trying to be innovative at a time of crisis to still be able to meet the needs that we believe the church can
Right.
meet, which is, again, community, serving people, worshiping God, but different than what people may have grown up with or what they're accustomed to. But that this limited amount of time, taking the pause or pressing the brake and giving it some space, we believe is the best and smartest and wisest thing to do. But in that, when we go back, whenever that is, you would suggest and you would say it's not even suggestion, because the churches and the CDC and all of that, I mean, I'm not going to get into the politics of everything, but everybody was, oh, we have the right and this don't. It's not about the right or the not right. The problem is that when you get back in those environments, if you don't keep your guidelines, like for us, it's children. I told them, if you think we're smart enough to know how to keep children socially distanced in a church environment, we're not.
Yeah.
So until time has given us a little bit of a learning curve and we can experiment in small, safer sizes, then we'll be maybe so there will be some experiments as we're going through that. But that's what we're trying to do is go, okay, what's the safest? So hand sanitizer machines coming in and making sure that we have plenty of those.
Right.
That's some of the things we're waiting on. Making sure mask or no mask, we're going, no, we need to, we know that our people need to do them, but is it required or not inside the building? We're going, probably so, even though you're 6 distance. But they're saying in churches it's not. I'm going, you probably should. I mean, come on, that would be silly. Why would you do it in one and not in the other? So all of those discussions are going on. So looking to the church, what advice do you have? And again, decisions have not been fully made. We're just talking.
Yeah,
So,
it's again the dimmer switch.
yeah.
I think turning the light on and just saying, okay, everything's back to normal. Go back to what you were doing. It's your right. It's your freedom. Well, you know, that's your freedom. What responsibility do you have for your fellow man?
Yeah.
And as a church, I think we should have a lot more concern
We should be.
about our fellow man. And I think the respectful thing to do is, like you said, hand sanitize when you walk in with a mask. If you're 6 feet apart and you're in an open, near an open environment, like down at the river walk or something,
Right.
I think you could go without mask and
Sure.
just have distance. But if you're in a building, I think mask is just not, like I said, it just doesn't seem like that much to do.
Sure.
To help, your fellow man. And you could get some good looking ones, get some
What about
funky ones.
all right, so here's a good question, because this is one of my other, there's a lot of debate on this. Somebody's actually, we've seen some customization and different things people are doing. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, I want one that says I'm single.
Oh,
Yeah, well, you can put your number out on podcasts. That's how you get digits, son. So the other part is a face shield. Do you think that's as effective as a mask? Because there was some debate here. Okay, so I got friends in Dallas. They opened their church back up. They were one of the first in Texas to do so. So I call him. I'm like, hey, dude, what was good, what was bad, what was ugly. And they're a big church. We're talking thousands and thousands, like tens of thousands that go to this church. He goes, it sucked. Everything sucked. And I'm like, what do you mean? He said, dude, it was just complicated. Because, number one, they did the right thing. They went above and beyond. They said, if Lowe's and Home Depot can do it, we're going to do it better than them. So we're going to try to. And so they had every other car parking spot. They had signs that you had to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down once you read, have you had fever? They made sure every car that pulled in was like, is this you? Are you up or are you down? So they had great procedures in place. Mask, obviously, separated. Mask were 90, he said 98.9, 99% of the people wore a mask in the service.
That's awesome.
They separated 6 feet. But he goes, but dude, nobody came back. They're not ready to come back. So he said, so we're going through all of this hoopla and we're trying to figure all this out. He goes, but one of the biggest things was you can't tell what people's responses are. Like when their face is covered, you don't know if they're happy, mad, talking. Everything's muted. What's going on? So then I said, well, did you ever think shields? Because this was not public. We were just talking. I said, well, what about like a face shield? He goes, dude, we didn't think about it. We kind of went with our mask, but now I got you. I'm going, if you have the full shield, is that better? Or, I mean, not better. Is it sufficient or not sufficient?
It's better than nothing.
But it's not as good as a mask.
I don't think it's as good as a mask.
Okay.
But, we do both. When we go in a room, we put a face shield on and a mask.
Yeah.
And an N95. And a mask over an N95. Or we wear a respirator. So
yeah, you're being double, triple.
So we take all the precautions. I think a mask is probably the easiest.
Yeah.
But we just don't really know yet.
Yeah,
and it's
that's
going
what
to
I
take
say.
us till we start opening up. And fortunately, some states have opened up before us, and we get a little of a
Intel
and say what worked, what didn't work, and what I hate to have happen, I want to have happen, is that it disappears. What I hate to have happen is we think it disappears, and then, like I said, we let our guard down.
It raises up.
And then it raises up, and we don't know what it's going to come back like.
True.
So, because we don't know if the antibodies that you get actually give you immunity.
They think, but they don't know.
We don't know. And if it does it for how long?
Right.
I mean, maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's 15 years.
Right.
We just don't know yet. So
that's when you start thinking about all that, that's what's interesting.
yeah. So,
Now, the other side of we had a church in town. Have we ever confirmed this? Is it confirmed?
It is confirmed.
So a church in town, they went ahead, we're going for it, and 4 or 5 of their staff members got it, and they shut it down.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I could,
Well, the scary part, too, we have one of our research physicians has gone to nursing homes and tested. And
nursing homes are like a petri.
well, it was, I think, in one nursing home, it was every staff member and like 50% of the residents. And, I mean, that's just a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So,
No, I'm telling you, if you talk about your anxiety,
Yeah.
avoid Granny's home.
yeah.
Because
My grandparents are in a nursing home in Dallas, and you can't get within
Yeah.
100
no, but
yards
Steve, but
of
the
it.
workers are still going out and coming in. That's how they're
Right.
getting it, correct? It would
Right.
have to be that it's from the employees because there's not a lot of in and out of anything else.
Well, you think about an employee like that, they get lax, they go home, they give it to their spouse or their mother
Right.
or aunt because they're lax. And that's what we don't want to mimic, is
Oh, yeah.
stay safe until we really know we have this under control.
And do you predict that will be a year from today? I know we're not. You're not Nostradamus. I mean, I understand you're not
crystal
looking.
Crystal ball's kind of tough, but he's.
But I mean, you think a year from now, we're obviously going to know more.
Oh yeah. Well, like I said, I think by this winter we will have enough information to make better decisions. We can or give advice better because we have more information. We can track this thing. I mean, like I said, we're sequencing the virus at LSU and our emerging viral threat lab, and we're starting to understand this virus more and can track it and like I said, they've gotten it down to a couple of places where it started in Louisiana. They're able to track that well. So
That's pretty cool.
And so we're learning this every day. Every day we have more and more information. And so once, like I said, we can just relax a little bit,
Yeah.
we can start putting all this together and come up with this very strategic, smart plan for everybody.
I do have one question.
See, but hey, did I bring in number one guest?
Yes.
This is
I'm
like-
encouraged.
This
I
is
mean, I'm joking around.
This is next level, though.
Yeah,
you
I-
went Dr. Keith Scott. He came in and said, I'm dropping knowledge on you, son.
I like it. I mean, it encourages me
It
to hear
is.
from a professional. Because I cut all the news out or whatever because it's just too confusing.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that information is very encouraging for me personally because I do and did have a lot of anxiety because of this.
Absolutely.
And this gives me a lot more hope than anything. I mean, I joked around that, I'm going to need a Klonopin. But honestly, really,
Yeah,
it's
you're-
given me a lot of hope. But I do want to go back to something because you use a lot of big scientific words, which are kind of cool. I'm going to be honest with you. But
He's a doctor, man.
yeah, well,
he don't
no.
play one
no,
on
no,
TV.
and he's like the
I did say
smartest
it a
guy I've
Holiday
ever
Inn.
met.
Yeah.
I said Holiday Inn Express.
Yeah,
so,
he did say it on the end.
But when you said sequencing the virus, what does that mean?
Well, you can basically take it apart and see how it's put together and see the RNA and the proteins that make up a virus. Because a virus, when it attaches to your cell, it uses your own cell to replicate. It doesn't replicate itself. The virus gets into your cell, and your cell starts making more virus, and then it spits it out.
And if you have a good immune system, it's stopping that.
hopefully.
So what I'm
it's
saying is,
stopping-
yeah. So like that's why they're
Right.
trying to figure it out. So I'm
And-
just adding that
and
in.
there's, like-
like I know.
Yeah.
Just so you know, Scott.
By the way,
but I mean that's
picture
immunity.
I picture you with tweezers pulling this.
Oh, no.
I know it's not,
No,
but still,
this
though,
is
that's what I.
microscopic.
This is some very, very brilliant virologists there that are able to just take it apart and study it and learn more
cool.
about its
All right,
characteristics.
so can I add something in here? Okay, so if you like that, how many times have I told you to watch 60 Minutes?
You tell everybody to watch.
Okay,
60
so
Minutes.
on 60 Minutes, 2 weeks ago, because last week they didn't do an episode, the main virologist in Wuhan, who is an American, was on the show explaining what Keith talked about and why we cut their funding and he can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
That's
And so
awesome.
he's going, I appreciate that because it got political and everybody's fighting over this, that, and the other. And he's just like going, dude, I'm not on either side. I'm just trying to tell you when you take my money, I can't tell you what bat gave it to you or what fish
Yeah.
or if it's airborne. I just got to have the money to be able to figure it out. Now, I know politically you may be right or left. I'm not saying that. I'm going, he's telling you we have people in this community that are spending their life dissecting, investigating, trying to figure these things out. And without these men and women, me and you, and I could cuss there, but I'll gear that down, are in a lot of trouble. That was almost the second time I've cussed on the podcast. Keith, you know I have a cussing
I
problem.
know, I know. I've heard that.
Yeah, so I had to gear it down occasionally. But this is why it's a big deal to me. It's like, thank God for these men and women.
Yeah, and I personally didn't know that this was going on locally.
Oh, yeah,
I had no idea.
And I brag a lot about our COVID research team because they are so dedicated and they're putting so much time
They
and
are.
effort in. And we are on the forefront. We are not, doing what anyone else is doing. We're the forefront of the forefront, and that's why we
Come
partner
on
with
now. Come
Harvard,
on.
Mass General, and all of that. So I'm very proud of the group.
Yeah,
And that's
thank
treatment and research.
Yes.
You. Thank you, by the way.
Yes. So is there anything, and it's probably, oh, yeah, we're way over
Well,
time.
we're in an hour and 3 minutes.
Oh, we did good then. All right, so here's my question. Is there anything, now, and I've asked you this before, and you've been kind. He's my connection when we deliver Do Good boxes to all the children's wing and all that. He's that, or we're trying to give them bears or, fill their closets when they got their budget cuts. We were trying to be a part of solving those problems. Is there anything we, the listeners, the church, can do? We went and prayed over and I'm not belittling that or saying that's not important. Obviously, prayer is important. And I know now it's not as, whatever, cool or, whatever to do. I'm just saying, what is it that would really meet a need or solve a problem for them? And what is it do you think we could be doing? Obviously, we're going to pray. But is there, you go, man, obviously we'll wear a mask. We'll try to do the things that, and this is the reason I say this, and this is a sidebar, on a New York nurse went viral because they said, we appreciate you banging the pots and pans because at 7 o'clock every night the city goes out and do it. He goes, just put a mask on and save the pot for somebody else. Save banging on the pan.
Yeah.
Because he was going, I appreciate that, but if you, we love you, we support you, and then you go out and go, I'm just going to do what I want to do, then all of that don't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything. And I think the thing to do, the main thing that healthcare workers do, and I know appreciate, is they do feel appreciated.
Yes.
And, we've not always been appreciated.
Sure.
Yeah, you appreciate, but I think seriously appreciate the risk that you put yourself and your family through to do your job. I think it's just supporting them and doing the respectful thing to them and saying, I didn't work all day, so you can go out and hug friends in a pool.
Right.
Yeah,
we saw that on the news. If you didn't see the news, you
Yeah.
don't watch the news, but it's Ozark. It was kind of a breaking news.
No. I saw a headline about it. 3,000 people or something.
I don't know. They just lost their mind.
But I mean, it is disrespectful in a way.
Yeah.
Because here's people that are really risking it, and we have some nurses that for the first couple of months didn't even go home with their children. They just
so they're missing their family, and you don't care. You do what you want.
Do what you want. So I think that's the best thing you can do for us, and then support the university here that is, like I said, just doing things as fast as we can, and I think it's a great group. So the more support that you show for LSU and the Health Science Center here in Shreveport is also something that's very appreciated.
Is there anything specifically, I mean, like meals, notes, cards, letters, banners, something that they would be reminded? Now, again, I'm putting you on the spot because we didn't talk about this, but if you think of that, people ask me, that's who we are, it's what we want to do. Mm-hmm. So if you go, man, that would be good. If it was coffee once a week from Starbucks, because people, I mean, you go, dude, we're going to do it. It doesn't matter if you go to, and I saw they have the trailer. Y'all brought in extra equipment and things to stage everybody. So if there's something you think of, dude, it'd be our privilege, my friend, to do whatever.
I will ask around.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be. We don't have to have any hubbub to it. It's just a matter of going, man, that would really be an encouraging thing.
And a lot of it is just like the meals were just godsends to get it. And this morning, Southern Made Donuts.
Amen.
But I got to tell you a story. I'm so used to wearing a mask now. I went and grabbed a donut whip.
I did see a guy that had a zipper on his mask.
I should have got it.
Yeah, they were like.
I saw one where a guy had a thing. It was connected. I don't know why you would ever wear this.
Yeah.
But he literally, it's on his left hand, and he presses a button, and it opens the mask up. He takes a bite of food, and then lets go.
Well, doctors need that. That's technology.
Well, but it was watching him do it. It would barely open, and the food would hit the mask.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not for it.
Yeah, it was not good.
Stick with a milkshake if you want to do that.
Yeah, that's the truth. Well, that's wild though, dude. I mean, anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
No, I appreciate giving me the time.
We're gonna tell people about it.
Yeah, so it's. Like I said, it's an honor, and love the church, and always have, and
we're thankful, man.
Want to, like I said, anything I can do to help the church.
You helped. Yeah. You helped us a lot. You gave us information.
We'll have to have you back in like a couple of months to see.
Oh yeah, maybe a month. Who knows? Maybe not even that long. We'll say
you're
what's
the smartest man we've ever had.
There's no doubt about that.
Oh my gosh, you've had some doozies then.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. Well, the truth is you really are one of our local heroes. Because beyond COVID, and I've said this before. You've had a heart to serve and give, and it is a tough world. If you're at LSU, people give it a hard time, and me and you always talk about it. It's one of the best, if not the best, at doing what they do, and people sometimes look down on it totally wrong, in the wrong light, because it is providing. Where I told you, my mom went there, had great care, and was taken care of until she passed, and then when I see the trauma of different people's life, because as a minister, that's the other part you go, that's the only place you go, I can just tell you, there's not a better place. And those people work their tail off, both men and women, staff, everybody's trying to make it better. And since Ochner, again, to give them some credit and encourage both the school side and everything, it's you can tell it's going places. I mean, add another hospital, like going back to Old Shumpert, St. Mary's and all that. That's innovative. They're trying to get things going. Yeah. And this area needs it. We're thankful for you, man. Thankful for what you do.
Thank you.
No doubt.
Very much so.
All right, well, let's get on out of here, Scott. It's about that time. We got to get this doctor back to work. You got more research to do. Scott's got to eat, and I got to go eat myself.
Well, I actually got to go to the grocery store.
Wear a mask. I was going to say, wear a mask. There you go. All right, till next time. Yes, peace, my brothers and sisters.